when I go to Barberitos, I want two kinds of lettuce, right? I want iceberg and I want spinach, and then I want black beans, but no rice. And then you go down and I want fresh.
I know. I'm
fresh
over here
jalapeno.
salivating, Joel.
Yeah.
Come on, man. I'm sitting here starving. Oh my God.
Americus, I'll meet you down in Georgia next time you're down there, and we'll get a
Okay,
we'll get a
let's
Barbs.
do it.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to Marketing Matters on the Wharton Podcast Network, which is our weekly podcast where we analyze the latest in advertising, marketing, customer behavior, new product launches, branding, retailing, everything marketing. I'm Barbara Kahn, the Patty NJH Baker Professor of Marketing, and we're waiting for our co-host, Americus, who hopefully will be in as the interview goes forth. But if not, I'm here to carry the flag because we're very excited today to have a very interesting person who has an interesting model. So we're talking today to Joel Bulger, who's the CEO of WOWorks, and that's the parent company behind 6 fast casual restaurant brands. You may have heard of them: Saladworks, Frutta Bowls, Garbanzo Mediterranean Fresh, The Simple Greek, Barberitos, and Zoup Eatery. So welcome, Joel, and tell us a little bit about this model and why these 6 restaurants and how the whole thing started.
Sure. As you said, I'm Joel Bulger, Chief Marketing Officer of WOWorks. I've been with the parent company right at 2 years. Come from a long line of restaurant marketing throughout my career with Coca-Cola and Wendy's and Johnny Rockets and Zaxby's and all kinds of fun brands.
All the real ones. I mean, all the ones, historic ones.
Yeah, some pretty great brands. And met Kelly Roddy, our CEO, when we were at Focus Brands, and I was at Moe's, and he was the president of Schlotzsky's. And we became friends. And a couple of years ago, he asked me to come in and help him with this new model. And WOWorks is a shared service model, which is very interesting. And if you think about it like, almost like you have cars, but they share an engine, right? And so behind the scenes, the stuff the guests never see, we share technology and analytics, our vendor relationships, our supply chain, operating best practices, marketing, right? We share all these things. But to the customer, we have to make sure that each brand feels very authentic and very unique to its own promise and its own direction and its own brand. And so it's proven to be really well. It's worked really well for our brands who are typically much smaller brands. We have Saladworks, which is a much larger brand at over 100 restaurants, but most of our other brands are under 50 units. And so they wouldn't have the benefit, of not only all of these different departments working on their behalf, but also the talent that WOWorks has and that we've hired in each.
Let me uncover. Let's talk about that a little more because I recognize this model. In other industries, I don't know that I've heard of it in restaurants, but it totally makes sense. So what I would call it is a house of brands model. And like if you look at luxury, LVMH or something like that, they have all these separate brands and they really allow the brand identity of each of those separate brands to develop. But behind the scenes, there's a lot of shared, just as you're saying, in the luxury market, there's different things they're sharing, like advertising power or real estate power. You probably have real estate power here too.
100%.
And maybe advertising power too. So it may not be that different, but it's an interesting idea where there's benefits to the portfolio, but the marketing is really kept separate. And in LVMH, it's because each of those brands have a heritage and identity and they don't want to harm the identity. Why is it so beneficial in this business to keep each one of those? Why couldn't you have like 6 different windows at your restaurants, for example?
Now, there are co-brands, and we can talk about that now or later, but generally speaking, though, it is a franchise model. So these franchisees bought into a particular concept, right? Whatever that concept is. And so the folks that bought into the Garbanzo Mediterranean Fresh didn't necessarily want to own a Saladworks and vice versa.
I see.
So we do have to keep the brands, and each brand not only has its own target audience, obviously, but it also has its own messaging and how it goes to business. Now, all under that better for you or healthier halo. With that said, though, we've recently, since my time there, over the last year and a half, 2 years, have been looking at doing co-branded models where Frutta Bowl as an acai concept works really well across all of our platforms. And it's one of those things where it's it doesn't really conflict with any of our other brands, right? If you go into Barberitos and you want a burrito or a burrito bowl or a taco,
and then fruit.
and then but on the other side of the restaurant, there's a Frutta Bowls. That's a very different audience and a very different occasion, right? And so it's not like you're putting in another taco or whatever it is to conflict with that. And so, and not only that, but I've always been a fan of, I always picture three or four people in a car at lunch at work, and they're all going out and they're like, where do you want to eat? And if you don't have the right combination of products, somebody will throw out the veto vote. Well, there's nothing I can get there, right? And so with the co-brand model, it really does work well because once you see it and it's there, it's a great opportunity to say.
I'm surprised you don't even do it more often. One of the things you also said, which is interesting, and I picked it up from our pre-conversation, but I wouldn't have necessarily picked it up, is there is an umbrella brand over the whole thing, which is like healthy eating. So you want each of these restaurants that are under your brand are healthy food, like
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's not only the ingredients, but the preparation. And even if you look at Barberitos as a burrito concept, if you build the exact same burrito, a chicken, black bean, cheese burrito at our concept versus our competitors, will typically come out 200 or 300 calories less, just because of the preparation and how it's done. Now, you flip all the way over to a Saladworks or something like that, where you have 60 ingredients and you can make a salad that's perfect for you. And you can be as healthy or as indulgent as you want to be. And it's interesting, Barb, because, especially over the last couple of years, the pendulum shifted. It was super healthy for a long time, and there's still always subgroups that want that, but it's really slid back. And I saw this interesting term in an article a couple of weeks ago, and it was craveable fresh. And it's like, I don't necessarily want super healthy, but I want to feel like
tasty, comfort.
Yeah, it has to taste really good.
Yeah.
And if you eat a salad, you could say, well, at least I didn't have a burger and fries, right? And calorically, they might be somewhat similar.
I've
but what
seen
you're getting,
salads that have more calories than burgers.
but you're not getting a lot of that, the cholesterol and the saturated fats and some of the other things of a burger and fries. So you really are doing better. But it's, and our Mediterranean concepts are classic for that, where it's, that set of ingredients in the chickpeas, that make the hummus and the gyro meat and all the things. It's just such a wonderful way to eat fresh and lighter and just feel better about yourself.
So I'm going to let Americus talk because he's been patient there.
Hey,
but before I
Joel.
open him up, yeah. So this is Americus. But I did want this healthy idea. I want to ask you about it because there's two things I'm curious about how it relates. One is whether you put calories on food, and you put the nutritional information there so people can see it. Because I personally hate when I see calories on things because it just takes away the pleasure of it for me. But the other thing I was curious about is how GLP-1s and all of that trends have affected. So, putting it all together, how do you address that whole health issue?
And that is a great question. And I love answering this question because we do it better than everybody else, in my opinion. Calorically, if you have over 20 restaurants, you have to put the calories on. That's the law. So, if you see on all of our brands are more than 20. So, but the coolest thing is we have probably our best kept secret. And I, as the marketing guy, we're getting it out there a lot more, but, we partnered with this company, and if you look at any of our brands, if you look in the nutritional information, not only do you get the standard nutrition, but down the right side, there's a whole bunch of filters you can put on it, and it'll say lifestyle. And that lifestyle includes everything from keto to Atkins to GLP-1 to whatever. And so you have that. And then if you go a little bit higher and it says any sort of allergens or restrictions, and if you can't eat gluten and dairy, you click those, and then it'll tell you by brand exactly what you can eat. And so think about being a parent, right? If you have two kids and one can't do gluten, one can't do dairy, and one of my friends is exactly that. And she said, it's easier not to go to restaurants because I'm going to do something wrong, right? And instead you can go bing, 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 and by brand exactly what you can eat. So it's very, very slick. The other thing with GLP-1 though is there was an article last summer through Fortune magazine, and they said, 1 in 12 people, 8% of the people are on GLP, and I think that number's even gone up.
Yeah.
And of the 11 out of 12, I think 8 of them said they would be on GLP once it gets cheaper. So it's a trend that's not going to change.
Right.
But they're 57% of them said I'm eating out significantly less. And so if that's the case, then that nutritional information, and that filter, that GLP-1 filter you can put in our brands, ensures that you're not going to fall off the track. So whatever you're trying to do, right? And so that's the fear is I'm going to do all this GLP-1 stuff at home. And then when I go out in the wild, then I'm going to mess it up somehow.
That's super interesting because during COVID, my husband and I used to eat 3 meals a day before COVID. And that during COVID, obviously we couldn't. So we had to start cooking, and we weren't trying to lose weight, but we actually did lose weight because we didn't go to restaurants, because there's all this. And that's when we awoke into the idea that restaurants put a lot of calories in foods. So I can totally imagine if you're working on this GLP-1 thing, you don't want to undermine your success by going to restaurants. A really good marketing pitch to say, you're safe with us. We got you.
And we support you no matter what. But, if you're keto, we've done a lot of stuff with proteins lately. We've got at Garbanzo, we have a protein bowl right now that's got 45 grams of protein, which is great. We're going to launch an LTO coming up next quarter where, some of our bowls are going to have upwards of 60, 65 grams of protein. That's great. If that's what you're into, super. But at least with our brand, it's going to be the fresh version of that, right? It's going to be great ingredients and great preparation, made fresh every day. Our mornings are full of prep, which is the way a restaurant should be.
That's awesome. Hi, Joel. Sorry I'm late. I apologize in advance. Sometimes computer tech is not very kind to me, but really excited to chat with you a little bit. Are you a Georgia Bulldog, by the way? I saw you.
Oh, my heavens. Am I? Go Dogs.
Okay, there you go, my brother. I grew up in Georgia, so I feel you.
Did you? What part?
East Point, Georgia, a little bit of Atlanta. Not very close to Athens, but was one of the places I would visit.
Marietta and Alpharetta and the whole shoot match.
Very cool. Awesome. Joe, love this idea. Can you talk a little bit about, because Barbara's always talking about like experiences, like how do I create something on top of all the wonderful kind of architecture of engineering frictionless choice and solving problem for the consumer? How do you think about like layering on top of that? Okay, what's the type of experience I want to create in that context as you're delivering all this value?
Especially defined as fast casual. What
does that even mean? Like, what is it? How do you think about that? How do you bring it to life?
Well, and that's super question. We had a great model and we made it better over the last couple of years with technology, but our original model, if you think about all of the Saladworks, I'm sorry, I'll use Barberitos is Barbs, Garbanzo is Garbs. But if you do Barbs and Saladworks and Garbs and all these people, you're going down a line and you're saying, I want a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I want this on my year-own stuff. So that inherently is a great experience, right? Where I'm interacting with the food, I'm seeing the freshness, there's all these wonderful freshness cues, and I'm building the exact thing I want in real time, right? Not only that, but sometimes you sit at a restaurant and you're like, why is it taking so long? It's going to take as long as it takes you to get down the line. So you're also controlling that. If you're in a super big hurry, you say, this, I got to go. And if you're not, you take a little more time. But not everybody likes that. And the younger generations, right, as they're coming out, they don't necessarily want the interaction. And so over the last couple of years, we've introduced kiosks, right? And the kiosks are wonderful because if you don't want to talk to a soul, very elaborate kiosks, right? You go in and you put in all your stuff.
Put your phones on.
Wow.
The accuracy is off the charts. People tend to spend a little bit more on the kiosks, which is great because the kiosk will automatically prompt you, to your point, Barbara, like at a restaurant. Do you want a dessert? Do you want a whatever? Do you want a drink? So it'll prompt you on those things. So they tend to skew about 10% higher on average check, which is awesome. But either way, it comes through at the end. We've got great loyalty. Actually, we just changed our loyalty program over the last month for all of our brands. You got a great loyalty program. You scan it, you get your points, and you move on. And so it's kind of
across brands or just within?
Well, actually, with this new loyalty program, it's going to be across brands. It's not going to be like you could use a Barberitos point at a Garbanzo, but what it is when you have the co-brands, if you have a Barberitos and a Frutta Bowl, if you buy a burrito and a smoothie, you'll get individual points for each of those, which was very difficult to build, I will say. But but it's so interesting. If you remember those books from when I was a little kid where it's like choose your own ending, that's sort of what our experience is like. It's like you walk in and it's like, do I want kiosks? Do I want people? Do I want to see the food? Do I want to just sit back and do fast? And then obviously you've got third party, first party through our website or online ordering. So you've got, 5 or 6 different ways to build it exactly like you want to build it.
What's your percentage of business that's order in advance?
It'll go for, it depends on, that's all by brand, but, you're talking 15 to 30%, depending upon the brand. I mean, and, that's the thing with kiosks too. And we, everything's a learning, but it's sort of like, well, the kiosks are difficult for some people. Some people don't walk up to new technology comfortably, but their phone is not new technology. I use it every day. So if I can order it here and I don't have to do that, and, so it becomes so, it's weirdly personalized, but in a lot of different options. And so that's, but that's why that model works though, we have so many ingredients and that customization is so perfect for people where it's like, I want a little bit of this. And, like when I go to Barberitos, I want 2 kinds of lettuce, right? I want iceberg and I want spinach, and then I want black beans, but no rice. And then you go down and I want fresh.
I know. I'm over here salivating, Joel. Yeah. Come on, man. Easy. Easy, my guy.
Don't go into the ingredients so much.
I'm sitting here starving. Oh my God.
I'll meet you, Americus. I'll meet you down in Georgia next time you're down there. We'll get a
Okay, let's do it. Okay, done.
So, I saw an interview, and I didn't read deeply into it, but I saw an interview with you where you were talking about AI, and I'm thinking, what does AI have to do with this model? It sounds so not AI. Like,
the model's not, but what you can do with AI is, right? We have several AI tools that are at our disposal now, and we get literally smarter every day. But, first of all, what I had said in the article that you're referring to is that, we were talking about what's the strength of AI. And I said, it's really amazing for smaller brands. Now we're a larger brand with a lot of smaller pillars, if you will, underneath it. But like if the 3 of us owned a 5-store restaurant, you could do photography, you could do your business planning, you could do your competitive reviews and all that stuff virtually for free, right? Yeah. Put that over here. That's not how we use AI. We use it on a much grander scale to really look at, like, we just went through for Saladworks, we just went through an AI, kind of a modeling thing where we were really trying to figure out, you can back analyze all the things you're working on, right? And you're looking at a menu we launched plus the LTOs plus the environment plus the weather, because a lot of our stores are up in the Northeast, and you add that all in and you say, take a look at everything and what worked the best and what did and what needs to be tweaked. And so then you can take it back.
Oh, that's cool.
And, we have other larger company. We have a lot of research and different things at our disposal. Yeah. And you almost kind of confirm or reaffirm the AI recommendations versus what right, from an industry standpoint. And so it's like this cool yin and yang where AI is a thinker. It's like having a friend. I mean, just look at chat, which is the easy one. We use other ones than chat, but if you just look at chat, 1.7 trillion websites, right? How many friends? That's the smartest friend I've got, right? Is somebody that can look at 1.7 trillion websites. And you can use AI for anything. If I said, if I want to open it, give me, based on my competitive set, give me the next 15 places I should put a Barberitos. It'll tell me. And it'll tell me why, right?
Interesting.
And so a lot of the modeling that used to happen where, back in the day when everybody used Starbucks as their real estate department, it's like, well, if Starbucks there, they must know something, so we'll put one nearby. Especially if you have a breakfast brand, right?
Right.
So it's very interesting. It's the future, but you have to be responsible with it. It can't solve all your problems.
Interesting. And the example that you were giving, Joel, is an example of the complexity of AI around almost kind of at the store level, looking at a lot of different variables and predicting some things. What are you doing that's also like at the individual level? So Americus shows up at the kiosk and I'm interacting with you and you're getting individual level data on what Americus is doing. How are you like optimizing a burrito model for Americus that can like maximize his utility, but also his willingness to pay? I mean, is it getting to that level of granularity, or like what are the ways that you think about? Because a lot of the AI stuff is, at least purported to be awesome because you can do kind of like this really incredible bespoke personalization type of stuff.
Has all the ingredients separate, so you really could do.
For sure.
Yeah. So how does that play out?
Well, first of all, it's way worse than you think. We've been able to do that to you for a long time. But yeah, if you think of, and especially like with our new loyalty and how it links to our POS, and then how these AI things, like we feed our sales and all of our POS data into the AI. So they all talk to each other. And if you change, change here. But in truth, I mean, the easiest way to describe it that I like to use is, Americus, if you're in the center of a spider web, okay? And that's your brand, that's your person. SMS and email and loyalty and POS and it's not just POS. Remember, it's I know when you buy your credit card, right? I know, which is we're 87% credit card. I know what you buy, when you buy, how many people are coming with you. I know if you buy drinks. I know if you buy dessert. I know what time of day. I know if you come on the weekends or not, right?
Right.
And so I know all that about every single guest. And then every time you make a purchase, I get a little bit smarter about you, right? Because I also know if I send you a loyalty, and loyalty obviously feeds into that as well. If I give you an offer on loyalty, you're either going to use it or you're not. And if you're not, I'm going to look back at your profile and figure out why, right? But if let's say, for example, you and Barbara come to lunch at Saladworks for a delicious fresh salad, and but you come at every Tuesday at 12:30, that's your thing, and you two come together, and you each spend $15 or $20. That's great. And so if I'm doing some sort of group offering, if I'm doing a buy three, get one free, I need to incent you a different way, right? Because you don't normally have that many friends with you. Or if I'm going to try to have you two come in on a Friday afternoon or on a Sunday after lunch, right? I know enough about you to say, well, that's not your first choice. So I either have to incent you in such a meaningful way that you're going to change behavior. And that's cool. The other cool thing is if I am doing a Tuesday promotion, I know I already have you. So I'll turn you off.
You won't send me the promotion.
I'll
He's
turn
coming
you off
anyway.
the loyalty, and I'll send it to everybody else, right? Because I'm trying, and so that way I'm not giving away money I already got, but I may incent you something differently. Because if you see everybody using their app and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't get something, I'll say, hey, your average check is $16, but if you spend over 20, I'll give you a free dessert.
Interesting.
So I'm going to change your behavior in a different way.
Yeah,
that's very, very cool.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a real quick question as well. Sorry, Barbara.
No.
This is so interesting. Give me your point of view, Joel. I'm asking this about all the gurus that come on to tell us about all the cool marketing stuff, but give me your point of view on, because I'm hearing this and I want to learn more about it.
Sure.
The idea that consumers are no longer just searching on Google. They are talking to LLMs. They are prompting LLMs and queries around LLMs. So how, as a brand and house of brands, how do you rethink and engineer ways to be more accessible and to show up in the right way in this wave of consumers using like Gemini and ChatGPT and cloud instead of clicking on where's the burrito sandwich, from traditional types of search? What are you seeing there that's changing, and how are you staying ahead of that curve?
Yeah, and it's really, and you said a couple of things there, so I'm going to try to address them both. From a ChatGPT in this standpoint, there are definitely ways to position yourself and market, and you can even ask them, what can I do on my websites differently that makes me more, or my advertising differently that makes me more meaningful to you?
They'll tell you. Oh, wow.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Wow.
If you want to terrify yourself, ask ChatGPT, say, when AI takes over the world, will I be protected or not? That'll be the best search you'll ever do in your life.
Oh, wow.
Because my ChatGPT actually named itself all by itself. It's crazy. It came to me one day. It said, I know your name. I'm called Sage. And I thought that was terrifying. But anyway, so I talk to Sage all the time. But no, the answer, the short answer to your query is, one, you definitely have to market against it's just like SEO. When SEO first came out, you did the search engine and stuff.
It's AEO now, I think, yeah.
AEO,
but it's also who they're counting on now. Like it's no longer, it is reviews and things like that, but it's not. Right. It's what are my friends doing? It's what are the influencers I care about doing? What are the people in my market doing? What am I, it's the same old stuff, but it really matters. Right. And it's so easy to get that. And so really working with influencers and working with different groups that, a lot of ambassador programs we've launched where we say, because, the cool thing about social media is there's a lot of smaller influencers that want to become bigger influencers. And so there's groups out there where you say, hey, I'll pay for your lunch. I'll pay for your friend's lunch. If you'll be an influencer, and these are people that, have a couple hundred followers, right? And it's like, I'll pay for your lunch, but I need a great review about this new LTO product or whatever. And so we end up having this army of ambassadors that are out. And so what people are seeing is, man, every time I turn a corner, I'm seeing a Saladworks ambassador. Something's going on there, right? And what we're doing
social proof.
It's very symbiotic though, right? We're helping become bigger, they're helping us become more noticeable.
I could see you might have like campus programs or things like that.
100%. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like
my goodness.
university got to be like a hotbed for that kind of activity.
Well, and especially against our products, right? So, I mean, that's the group that really wants to know what they're putting in their bodies, right? That's, tell me about your ingredients. Tell me, we're, with our acai concept, I mean, I'm taking a trip to Brazil in the fall because we have to I'm meeting with the farmers that are going to get our acai berries, right? I mean, it's that important to know. It's farm to table is long gone. It's like, I need to know origin story of, people almost want to know where the seeds come from that the farmer got, right?
Yeah. Right.
And, but it does matter, and it matters how things are treated. But it's not, it's also interesting, and I think this is a wonderful thing, but it's not just the product, but it's the farmers and how are they being treated. And especially in other countries that are manufacturing certain ingredients, are they fair practices, and are people being respected, or are people being manipulated? And so we're very careful.
Another minute, but I'm dying to ask you this question. So I'm just going to interrupt. How do you keep like employees like doing a good job? Like if you have all this customization and you're talking about moving along the line, not in your stores, but in other stores, I've been in stores where I want to kill them,
Wow.
And I would imagine you have a lot of turnover. Like this is a very employee-centric model.
Right.
So how do you make sure you have the right people and you manage that well?
Yeah.
I'm going to give away one of my secrets, and I hate doing that, but it's a good one. And I didn't invent this, but I've borrowed it many times. And there's a speaker, if you know Simon Sinek, do you know who he is?
What is
and
the
he does
why?
the golden circle, right? And this whole thing is about what's in the center of your circle. Is it what or why? And my personal feeling is, I think a lot of folks, when they introduce a new restaurant folks, when they introduce a new LTO, they'll Barbara, if you're one of my managers, I'll say, hey, we got a new LTO. It's got these 6 new SKUs. It's 3 products. You have to do all this training around it. And you go, oh gosh, here we go again. Right. But because of what I've told you is the what, I haven't told you the why we're doing it. So if I say, hey, Americus, like back in the fall with Frutta Bowl, Dubai chocolate is the hottest flavor out there. And it is something it's gone wild out there. And I'll tell you what it's about. It's this chocolates here in Dubai literally invented this. And then you have pistachio cream and all the extras. And it's just like this wonderful product. And it's so exciting. And this is what kids are looking for. So we're going to introduce it and stay ahead of the trend as best we can. So I really need you to get your employees excited. It's a very different conversation, right? Because they know the why we're doing it. Or dirty sodas, right? We're introducing lines of dirty sodas. And people are like, I don't even know what that is. And it's like, well, it started with the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, right? And all that craziness about that. But it's really, it's a base soda or juice, right? And then you throw in pumps of flavor and then some sort of sweet cream. And it's become this phenomenon, but but people are saying, why do it? Well, it's super popular. It's very innovative. It's on trend. Hate to say it. It photographs really well, right? And so when people get it, it becomes part of their identity because it's this reasonably priced, customized thing, right?
Yes, sir.
I didn't introduce Americus properly. He's a brand identity theorist. So when we always hit the bell when somebody says identity.
Did I say something good or bad?
No, it's very good.
It's very good. That's awesome.
Believing in all of that model. Well, this has been so much fun. I didn't realize there was so much to talk about in this world. But thank you, Joel Bulger, who's the CMO of WOWorks, the parent company behind 6 fast casual restaurant brands, including Saladworks, Frutta Bowls, Garbanzo Mediterranean Fresh, Simple Group.
Thanks for having me.
Barberitos and Zoup. So where can they go? How do they know where your restaurants are?
WOWorksusa.com for all of our brands, and then our individual brands, Saladworks, Garbanzo, they all have their own websites. I encourage you, though, if nothing else, especially if you have nutritional things that you worry about, or things you want to do better on, or things you want to find out more about, go to our websites and go to our nutritional information, because you will find that website is as cool. You never wanted to go in and play with a nutritional website before, and you will go in and just tinker with this thing, and you're like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. So.
Nice. I love that. That's extraordinary. Awesome. Also want to say thanks, Joel, because we take it for granted. Like we walk into a restaurant and someone hands us a bowl of really incredible stuff and awesome ingredients. And we just like, and something had to happen.
A lot of things happen.
You know, a lot, from a farm to an origin story to there it is in Americus' hands, and he's enjoying and he's loving it. And now, you know, super loyal in the program. So really,
even down to
the
the
work here.
compostable bowls. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen for sure.
Very cool.
Well,
All right.
thank
you both so
much.
much
for joining us. That's all we have time today. We'd like to thank our producer, Jacob Grodnick, and thank you all for listening. We'll be back soon. Till then, this has been Marketing Matters on the Wharton Podcast Network. I'm Barbara Kahn, here with Americus Reed.